Hello, good morning. Welcome to Monza in Italy, to the Autodromo Nazionale, the Temple of Speed, in the shadow of the North Italian lakes and the Alps in the distance, on a scorching Saturday morning. Air temperature already 30 degrees. René Arnoux, one of Ferrari's racing legends here at the circuit, and the track temperature already up to 35 and climbing fast. This is going to be a very, very hot race weekend indeed. And of course, it is going to be absolutely jam-packed. Having Ferrari in the World Endurance Championship has brought a whole host of new eyes to the game, and having Ferrari, having just won Le Mans 3 weeks ago, has brought the humanity to Monza in huge numbers. Well, this is the 5th round of 7, beg your pardon, in the World Endurance Championship. When we got 12 hours into Le Mans, we had done half the racing and still had half the racing to go. So 6 hours here in Monza, and then we head to Fuji in Japan and the season finale in Bahrain. I'm Martin Haven. Joining me in the booth, Graham Goodwin and world champion Ant Davidson. And Ant, this is a combination of real high speed for the drivers and the need, because it's got so few corners and they're so well known, to be so precise. Any tiny little error just bleeds away time.
Yeah, it's a reset for all the drivers and teams after Le Mans, the big one that they all focus on. And you come here to Monza now. In many ways, it's a clean sheet. Back to the World Endurance Championship after that big race in June. And yeah, here were the winners of that race. Car 51, Pierre Guidi, Collado and Giovinazzi. But in a few laps' time, it will be a bit of a distant memory, because all eyes, all focus is on this track. And yeah, it's a high-speed track. It's one way is the braking zones are really important to get right. You need a lot of traction from the car as well. Very different corners compared to Le Mans.
Sea of red in the grandstands, as you might imagine. Well, what are the challenges of this Autodromo Nazionale?
Yeah, so clockwise circuit. Like I said, mentioned before, high speed. Start off at the first chicane here. So the pit lane entry bleeds off into this first corner. Makes it a little bit tricky in the race situation, but that's an important braking zone to get right and to maximize the traction as well. That sends you through Curva Grande, the second chicane, and towards this corner here, the first of the Lesmo corners at turn 6. So right-hander, 90-degree, but quite fast and flowing. Takes you through Lesmo 2, down the back straight towards the Ascari chicane at turn 9. They've taken away one of the sausage curbs on the inside of turn 9. Allows you to run a bit more car over the curb and carry more speed through that corner towards the final corner, the Alboreto curve at turn 11.
Yeah, famous names. Curva Alboreto, named after Ferrari driver Michele Alboreto. Still everybody thinks of it as the Parabolica, the final corner, and just 11 turns on the circuit. And in fact, there are actually only 5 corners. We go up to 11 because things like Ascari are basically 3 elements, left, right, left, and that makes it 3 corners. Last year, the race was won from the pole position by Alpine. Now, they are no longer part of the top class. They came into hypercar with a grandfathered LMP1 car. They will race here in LMP2, but Toyota still smarting after defeat in Le Mans. Will definitely be hoping to try and get back to their winning ways here.
So Alex, the lottery numbers: BB2 2, migration -3, TC LED 7, TC long 6, Romeo 4, Bravo 1, then Golf 2, position 3, Golf 3, position 2, Golf 4, 40, Golf 5, 20, Golf 9, 7, and the rollbars you had on 3 in the front, 4 in the rear.
So just the driver there and race engineer going through all of the switches on the steering wheel just to make sure that things haven't been knocked out of position when the steering wheel goes back onto the car from overnight. You know, mechanics are in and out of the car doing the setup work, of course. So that's just the engineer knowing which settings should be programmed into the car and double checking that the driver has those rotors and all of the switches in the right positions before the car goes out there.
And part of that might be that they've preset those in the car, but when the driver's in, they're now telling him lateral and longitudinal traction control is this, brake-by-wire is that, the migration of the brake balance is that. These are the base settings, and so they were, I mean, there's, you know, that was like when the restaurant read back your takeaway order and you've got 20 people in the kitchen, you're desperately trying to remember what your wife ordered so you don't leave that off. You know, that's a long list of details.
It's like when you go to the dentist, isn't it? And you hear them talking in code to each other.
Yes.
It's basically the same thing. So they've got your map of where you were before last visit, and then they scroll through as they're checking each tooth, and they're talking in code to each other. So it sounds more complicated than it really is. It's, yeah, like you said, it's just checking that all the traction control and the diff settings, everything are all set in the controls there. Graham.
Yeah, well, here's our newcomer to the hypercar class, still growing even through this season. Harry Tinknell there, and will be making his debut in this class, and there's a hell of a stat for Harry Tinknell.
I hope he's not still growing. He's 6 foot.
Did I say so? I've still got a class. There you go.
Oh, the class is still great. Sorry,
the
not Harry.
winners, the Inter-Europol number 34 team, but that's Proton Porsche. Did look really, really smart, and their WeatherTech livery out on track yesterday.
And the reason that Proton Porsche is in WeatherTech livery is that is in fact an IMSA entry for Proton. So that car won't race in Japan and in Bahrain. That will be going to the IMSA WeatherTech series wearing WeatherTech colours.
That car won't, but their other car will.
Oh, their other car will.
So their other car will. Yeah. So this car goes directly from here to the United States to take part in the next IMSA race after this weekend's race in Canada. And then in time for Fuji, their second car, their second 963, which will be the full season wet car, arrives.
Because having one 963 isn't enough, you've got to have a brace.
WRT team looking at there on screen, car 41 with Robert Kubica out the wheel. And they were strong yesterday. They had a good time in FP1 and FP2. Good speed from the car. We saw just before that the Prema car. They're here obviously on home soil, so they'll be hoping for a bit of a better weekend than they had at Le Mans last time out.
Tough weekend last weekend at the Spa 24 Hours for local team WRT. They really just had a bit of a shocker. But last year, real team by WRT, the 41 car, Rui Andrade, he was one of the 3 drivers in that car. They won here. He won with Norman Nato and with Ferdy Habsburg, but Rui Andrade remains in the 41 car. Corvette won in GTE Pro here last year. Do you remember? Ferrari misjudged their fuel numbers, and somehow Corvette claimed, with Tommy Milner and Nick Tandy, they claimed victory by breathing on fumes. Tandy, there was this great message at the end where the race engineer was going, yeah, I told you could make it, I don't know how you made it. You know, it's that we were lying to you. Save fuel, you can do it. And yeah, so the last ever GT Pro win for Corvette. But Corvette might end up winning the GT Championship here this weekend. If they score strongly on the podium, no matter what their rivals do, it could well be that they end up as champions.
Under 1 minute to open pit line. Under 1 minute to open pit line to start FP3.
So what the Corvette needs to do is to win, second or third plus pole will secure the championship for them. And remember, guys, we've got 3 more races to go with these GTE cars before they become history in motorsport and replaced by LM GT3. We now know from what was announced at the Le Mans 24 Hours that the LM GT3 representatives for Corvettes at the WC next year will be TF Sport.
Here's the Hertz Team Jota car. That was one of the dominant factors in free practice 1 yesterday.
Yeah, they really hit the ground running, didn't they? The car looks strong on circuit. I don't know whether they're running lighter fuel.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. FP3 has now started. Pit exit is open.
Free practice, final free practice here at Monza for the 6 hours of Monza on Sunday. The Mille Miglia di Monza, as the track announcer is calling it. I'm not sure they're going to get 1,000 miles. They'll probably get close to 1,200 kilometers, but we'll wait and see. Free practice underway and a final chance to shake down all the cars in our 3 categories, in hypercar, in LMP2 and in GTM. And Anthony, how much time are the teams going to have to spend trying to set up the car for qualifying as well?
Well, actually, they won't have to set the car up specifically for qualifying, because we're back to, of course, no tyre warmers for the rest of the World Endurance Championship. We had them reintroduced for Le Mans, but now, because you're not running tyre warmers, that's why they're all creeping through these first couple of chicanes here. They're going to have to set the car up naturally to preserve them a bit longer, because they'll be in qualifying looking for maybe the 3rd or 4th or maybe even 5th lap to get the best out of the tyres once they're up to temperature. And you don't want to go scrubbing the surface of the tyre too much before you've got them warm enough. So, yeah, I don't think they'll be looking for any kind of qualifying specific setup for this track. And there's nothing they can do, obviously, downforce-wise as well. The hypercar category, you're limited to that aero package for the entire season. It's not like you can trim it down a little bit. You can adjust the balance, but you can't trim down downforce levels or, for that matter,
or ramp them up.
Yeah,
exactly. Out of Variante Ascari, named after Alberto Ascari. In the pit lane, Louise Beckett. Louise, good morning.
Good morning. Now, I was just looking at the Michelin tyres in Hypercar and GTM, because of course we've now got the logo on the side, so we know the compounds, and the majority of the field are on mediums, but there are a few that have gone out for this free practice session on hard compounds. So, Ant, is that what you would expect for the mediums?
I would be expecting mediums, Louise, yeah. So that's a good spot down there. Obviously, we can't see that because the logo you were talking about, Louise, is it's a stock car, the 38 Jota. I'll just go back. I'll just finish what I was saying about the logos. So it's good that Louise, we got her down there so she can see the tiny little decals on the car on the side of the tyres. It's yellow, red, or white. Deciphers which compound they're on, and we can't really see it from the screen. So there, you can just see on the sidewall the yellow part near the Michelin logo.
Ooh, big lockup from the number 6
Yep.
Porsche, yeah. And let's hear from the 38 Jota car. This is their hypercar.
So, Pete, did you have the message error? Question? Fuel pressure 0. Fuel pressure 0. Pete, fuel pressure 0.
It's not really, we shouldn't, and we've learned not to really panic when we see, particularly one of the Porsches stop on circuit. We saw it a lot yesterday. We've seen it in Spa earlier in the season, in the championship, and they seem to be able to reset the car and then get going again. And that's exactly what we've seen just now.
Talking about not panicking, if you have not seen Le Mans because you weren't, either because you were there and you didn't see it, or because for reasons of having a life and a family, you weren't allowed to glue yourself to the TV for 24 hours, you can go to the World Endurance Championship YouTube channel and the full replay of Le Mans is there. And if you want heart in your mouth, car not starting, wait until the final couple of hours with Ferrari's leading car. Boy, I don't know how much it aged people, but it aged us watching a couple of times they had a problem in the pit stop. And it doesn't happen with LMP2, it doesn't happen with GTEM, probably won't happen next year with LMGT3, but there is something about the electronic sophistication of these hypercars that just leaves them a little bit vulnerable to not being easily turned off and onable.
They're very new, and this is going to be part of, I'm sure, part of the development process for all of these cars. This is part of what the teams and the manufacturers are learning about the package that they've got. And it's been, if you think about it, I think I'm right, was it yesterday, the day before, was a year to the day when the Ferrari won Le Mans just a few weeks ago, hit the track for the very first time. So for a car that complex, the genesis of these things has been astonishingly short.
I mean, look, this is the ultimate test for hybrid technology. Any electronics, you put them on a racing car around a bumpy track like this one, an old school circuit here in Monza, it is the ultimate test. So, you know, in a road car, you can make the device as heavy as you want. You're not limited or constrained by weight as such, but in hypercar, you're working towards one of those windows, those 4 windows of those parameters that are set in place by the FIA in terms of performance, and weight is one of them. So you can't go making a hybrid system that's more, you know, beefed up beyond its necessary weight to make the thing reliable. And then it's getting vibrated way more than you'd ever hope to have in a road car situation. So yeah, it's a it's a tough challenge for the design team to build these cars for the job.
Yeah, it definitely is. You want everything to be as light as possible. Actually, we're talking to a couple of the hypercar drivers before Le Mans, and they were saying that the perception seems to be that these cars are dumbed down compared to the LMP1 hybrids. He said they're absolutely not. They are more sophisticated and more... There is more going on in the car than there ever was in an LMP1 hybrid, and we thought those things were complicated enough. Carlos Tavares there on the left-hand side, one of the Stellantis Peugeot bosses, racing here this weekend as well in historic Formula 3. There's a Toyota Nova motor-powered sort of early 80s, late 70s, early 80s Formula 3 support race. And Carlos Tavares will be out. They may even have been out this morning in one of those cars. Down in the pit lane, Louise Beckett.
Yeah, also don't forget, this was Peugeot's debut last year for their car.
Exactly right, and they're back for the first time with a setup sheet that is not just a plain white notepad with nothing written on it apart from their name and the date.
Yeah, good point.
And it was a year before that they presented the car to the media for the first time.
Here as well. And everybody went, no rear wing, that's never going to work.
Yep.
Well, certainly at Le Mans for the first time when they went to Le Mans, we saw that actually it really did work. I talked to Lloyd Duval about that yesterday. I said, look, it really looked like the car was just absolutely in its element at Le Mans. And he said, I think all the hypercars were. I think, you know, that's what they were designed for. Long straights, high speed, that's what they're built around. He said here, they're all going to feel like big, heavy lumps.
And the spin here, third quickest at the moment, but not on this lap for the 777. It's in the hands of Satoshi Yoshino. That's the gentleman driver will just come out the pits. At the moment, I don't think for very much longer. It is a Peugeot 1-2 in this session, 93 from 94. Jean-Eric Verne from Gustavo Ramirez. And as I say it, to the top of timing and scoring goes Antonio Fuoco.
Now, there was a great little cameo, wasn't there? And again, featuring Carlos Tavares when at Le Mans in the first few hours, Peugeot were 1-2, and we saw him in the screen walking up just to take a little picture of the timing screen.
Here he is riding on board with Antonio Fuoco, who leads the pack at this stage.
2 pole positions so far this season, at the season opener in Sebring, and of course at Le Mans, leading the Ferrari front row lockout. Now he's gone through the chicane the correct way. When you can't go through the chicane the correct way, there is an escape road, and he was just having a look down the inside of the AM class car and realised the road was going to be blocked.
Yeah, what it was, the Toyota was going down the inside on the overtake, so that slowed down the GT car before it could turn in and make the corner, and Fuoco's arrived at the scene a bit too fast, realised he didn't want to hit the back end of a Ferrari. That wouldn't have been a very good PR at their home circuit, so he chose to do the right thing to go down the escape road instead, and no harm done.
Or indeed hit anything else, because it messes up the front of your car.
Exactly.
As a mark of what is going on here at Monza, we were out, were we not, gentlemen, at the first chicane for free practice 1, and when the Ferrari 499Ps came out, a fair number of the crowd stood and applauded.
Absolutely.
It's great to see. It is great to see.
Well, look, we're 3 weeks on from Le Mans. Sunday night news across Italy will have had nothing leading other than Ferrari wins Le Mans. So that, you know, on every news story, Monday's newspapers will have been full of it, and then a week later they came to Maranello and ran the cars around the streets, and that will have been all over TV as well. There's not a single human being in this country who is not aware that Ferrari have got a racing programme apart from Formula 1, and one that just won a big name that they've heard of. Even if they've never seen sports car racing or done anything, they will know the name Le Mans. And so we were saying yesterday was as full on a Friday as a normal Sunday race day is for World Endurance. And actually, one of the great things yesterday was that the authorities at Monza, it was free to get in. So there were so many families with kids, so many mums and dads with kids, and teenagers and everything else. So school holidays have started here for Italian kids. So I expect to see even more here this weekend. And that's great, because we need to infect the younger generations with the passion for sports car racing.
Right.
And boy, Ferrari are going to do that here.
Peugeot, by the way, so back to the top, 135.878 from Jean-Eric Verne. And also, the car was in trouble to start the session. Ife up in 4th, quickest right now, with Harry Tinkley 5th. So the 2 privateer Porsches ahead of both of the factory-entered Penske-operated cars.
Really interesting when we were watching yesterday, particularly at the first chicane where we could see more of the car rocking and rolling from side to side. That Hertz Team Jota car just looked like a different machine to the two Penske Porsches. It just looked settled and planted, and the other two looked a little bit rolly, and it's the same basic kit of parts, but Anthony, so are all these Porsches, for instance. It's what you do with them and how you set them up and then how you use them that makes the difference. Otherwise, you know, there'd be a dead heat with all the same cars together, and LMP2 is, again, the perfect example. Same engine, same tyre, same chassis that everybody is using, but it's what you do with it that makes a big difference.
That's why I questioned the fuel load in FP1 of the Jota, because it looked like a very different car compared to the rest of the Porsche hypercars around them. And yeah, a lot more nimble in turn 1 and turn 2 where we were watching. Good on the braking as well. So you know, maybe they do have that genuine speed, and that'd be great if they do. But they're all running very different programs. You can hear from Brendan Hartley now in car number 8.
Okay, Brendan, we had track limits turn 10 last lap. Track limits turn 10.
Okay. Copy. Interestingly, yeah, not above the step. So I don't know if it's just the tyre from MP1 or what. Yeah.
So that's just here. That's just here on the exit of turn 10, exit of the Ascari chicane. So track limit for Brendan Hartley. Lap time was deleted, as you heard, that last lap around.
If you're going out that wide, is that an indication actually that you've made a mistake going in and you're just carrying speed in the wrong place?
Yeah, you want to try and keep your foot down on the exit of that corner. Obviously, it leads onto a long straight before the final corner. And so if you feel like the car gets a bit unsteady around turn 10 in that change of direction from 9 to 10, you can kind of, it's a little bit lazy in many ways, just keep your foot down. You don't want to lose that valuable momentum, and you can easily run out of all four wheels over the white line there. So, yeah, but it's interesting. He said, yeah, okay, I understand. I'll try and keep check on that then, and next time, now I know they're looking, and that's the whole point of free practice. When you know that the stewards and the race director are looking at track limits there, then you might try and rein it in a little bit. But it's very tempting, so you know there's lap time there.
We're joined as we watch the machinations here of that Toyota drifting it through.
And that's the turn 9 before that turn 10 where Brendan was penalised for track limits. So you see it bumps around in turn 9, and that sometimes throws you offline before this corner here. And then you want to keep your foot down. You want to be flat out at this point here all the way through the corner.
So in the booth, and a special day, I think it's fair to say, for one of the partners of the FIWC. Familiar face to anybody in the WC paddock, and a very familiar voice. Mike McGregor from Goodyear. Mike, you're here with, obviously you brought us some free water bottles as well with this fantastic heritage branding. Tell us a little bit about why it's so special this weekend here for Goodyear.
Turn you on first, that might be
that'll help.
Might help. Yeah.
We're celebrating our 125th anniversary, so it's in August. We started part of the build-up at Le Mans for the centenary, and we've used this Monza WC event to help get that message out to everybody that we're celebrating the 125 years. So we've changed all the branding on the cars, on the track, and on the tyres itself.
Now that in itself must be something of a logistical thing. When did you have to pre-plan getting the heritage Wingfoot logo on those tyres?
Well, it's been ongoing throughout the year, to be honest with you. We did one of the NASCAR events at Darlington, was the start of it, and then we thought we'd just carry that on throughout the year to try and make sure that everyone's aware of what we've achieved.
Yep. So LMP2 is obviously your fighting ground here, and that's given us some fantastic entertainment in this current phase of the rules from 2017, and it carried on, of course, through Le Mans, and will carry on, I'm sure, through the rest of this season. But there's some exciting times to come for Goodyear, because everything changes next year. LMP2 leaves the FI World Endurance Championship, so does GTM. LMGT3 arrives, and you guys have been successful in winning that tender and will be supplying tyres for a massive array of cars that we're expecting next season.
Yeah, it's really exciting. We've actually got a 296 GT3 in the fan zone this weekend in a full Goodyear livery. And the testing is ongoing, so we're testing with multiple manufacturers. Obviously, we've got front engine, mid-engine, rear-engine cars, very different aerodynamics across those cars. So we're doing a quite intense test program. We've got another test coming up in a couple of weeks' time at Paul Ricard to try and get the specs ready for the end of this season.
Mike, just bringing it back to this weekend, talk us through the challenges, particularly for this race compared to that of Le Mans. We were talking about tyre warmers being used in Le Mans, they reintroduced, but now back to how we started the championship without them. Technically, how does that change the mindset and what your preparations are for this weekend?
It hasn't changed it that much, if I'm honest with you. The tyres, when we did all the pre-development of this spec, obviously everything was done with tyre warmers in mind, but actually when we did all the investigation last year for the removal of tyre warmers, it's not been an issue for us at all. The tyre warm-up has been very good and the driver feedback's been really strong. So
you're saying that these tyres were designed originally to run with tyre warmers?
Yes.
And then the rule changed and you realised actually they can cope all right without them?
Yeah, I think, you know, the product that our R&D group has done here for LMP2 and WEC, it's so robust, it's so versatile, and you look at all the conditions it runs in, it's a single specification without tyre warmers, and actually all the feedback we get from the drivers is the tyre's brilliant.
And you run this compound and construction on every different circuit within the World Endurance Championship, unlike the hypercar tyres where they have, well, in Le Mans we had 3 different compounds for them.
Yeah.
So that's such a, you must have to build in quite a lot of margin within the tyre then to, how do you cope from, say, Bahrain, the low grip surface there, and then the high-speed corners of Le Mans? That's such a technical challenge for you.
It is, and a lot of work went into do that, and it's quite funny because obviously the big pushback in the beginning was everyone was so worried about going to a single spec.
Just a quick moment there for the number 51 car. Just gone 4th quickest, by the way, in Tony Giovinazzi in the Le Mans 24-hour winning car. It's this car, by the way. They've not retired that chassis. That continues. But Mike, the other part of the enigma here, and this is going to carry on into the LMGT3 era, is you're not just designing a tyre that is usable for a top professional driver. It's got to be safe and it's got to be fun, if you like, for the amateur drivers that take part in these classes too.
Yeah, of course, but when we were looking at the removal of tyre warmers, we actually, not to trick drivers, we've done a bit of it with you, obviously, Anthony, but we put some of the old specs back in with the various compounds to try and get the feedback of what it is drivers were looking for, and actually this specification that we're on is what was chosen as the preferred option because it's so versatile, because it's got such a wide operating window. It makes it much easier to drive across the broad span of drivers that we have.
We talk a lot about this current breed of LMP2 cars, and they are exceptional race cars, absolutely astonishing. The package for those cars, it's all about cost capping. Where does the kind of Goodyear thing come into that side? Clearly you're having to build a tyre not just for performance level, but also to a budget as well.
Yeah, of course, and by having a single product that's versatile, it means the teams don't have to test as much. They don't have to go to all these different circuits to understand how the tyre's going to work, because the product reacts in the same way at the various tracks. So that it's kind of, it matches the sustainability angle and manages the cost angle.
Well, I have to say, I mean, you're looking pretty good on 125 years old. You know, long that may that continue in the paddock. Goodyear, fabulous partner for the FI World Endurance Championship. That history will continue into a new 2-class era next year with LMGT3, and I'm sure a lot of work to come for you guys testing between now and when we get going in Qatar next winter.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to the challenge.
Great stuff. Thanks for joining us, Mike. We're going to go back to action on track and in pit lane. And with the number 99 car, our debutante hypercar, 6th position at the moment in the FP3 for the number 99 car. That car out in the hands of Neil Janney.
Yeah, Janney just running wide. We saw that a few moments ago in turn 1. It's very easy to do. You know, they do specify, the race director specifies, look, if you're going to go wide in turn 1, do what they've been doing in the second chicane. Go straight on, work your way around the bollards, and then join the circuit further on the exit of turn 2 in a safe manner. Problem is, if you commit to the corner and things go wrong too late, like it did for Janney that last time around, there's nothing you can do. You have to cut the inside of turn 2. There is a huge curb there in your way, so that naturally is a deterrent. You can see the black and yellow curb that he had to work his way around. So it kind of achieves the same thing, but ideally they like you to go straight on. But it's not always that straightforward. We can listen to the 93 Peugeot now.
Sometimes I don't get my downshift. It's like there's no engine braking. It doesn't engage the gears. I don't know.
Copy that, Mikkel. We'll have a look.
Yeah, Mikkel Jensen just complaining about the downshifts there on that 93 Peugeot. So yeah, he's not quite sure whether they're in sync or not, and maybe feeling a bit of rear locking as well. That's what often happens when you feel a bit of a bad downshift.
That's been the Achilles heel right from the first race here in Monza last year. The Achilles heel of that car has been the frailty of its transmission. I understand it's actually a self-built, it's a Peugeot-built transmission. They didn't farm it out to transmission specialists. They built their own, and they have had a lot of problems with it. And, you know, with all these things, the ECU, the engine control computer, has to talk to the gearbox control computer to dip the engine revs and all of that stuff. And presumably that's what he's talking about. When he's downshifting or upshifting, it's not blipping the throttle or dipping the revs exactly at the right place. And so, like in your road car, if you push the clutch down too slowly, then you buzz the engine or you crunch the gears, and that's the same thing here.
This is a great onboard shot, isn't it? Riding on board with Sebastian Buemi into the final corner. The Peugeot comes thundering past on the inside there. That was great stuff. Seb has a bit of a moment there in the middle of the final corner, and back on the accelerator now on the exit. So the two cars obviously running quite different programs at this stage.
And he's on an outlap, so his tyres there in the Parabolica still not quite warm enough to give him that front end that he wanted.
That's a great spot there, Martin, and that really highlights the difference of grip. So that's why he was quite keen to let the Peugeot go. I said they look on different programs. They very much are, because one's on an outlap and the other was flying around lap after lap.
By the time he got out of the first chicane, he was right with the Peugeot again. But it was just that little moment of, oh no, you little fighter, when he turned into the Parabolica, and it wasn't there for him.
Top six at the moment, by the way, separated by just over a second after, what, 23 minutes of running here. And that's split across Peugeot, Ferrari, Hertz Team Jota, and Proton. Sorry, Proton is the next one's down in sixth place, but
even there, sorry Graham, even there on the exit of Lesmo 1, I could see that the Toyota had a big sideways moment again, so still losing ground to the Peugeot. So going back to what your original question was about qualifying, yes, they're going to have to set the car up more towards a race balance because the tyre isn't there on the lap one anyway.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, the Toyota, it's very, very different from the predecessor, the LMP1 hybrid. It moves around a lot, and we've seen that right from the beginning, and this is like 3 years into the program. It's just an element of the car. Their CFG is a little bit higher than the LMP1 cars. They're heavier than the LMP1 cars. They've got less downforce, a little less power. It's a big car. It moves around a lot, and you see that all the time. You see the car moving at the front. The drivers having to work so hard to get the front in, and the back moves around on them as well. It's a very active car. You're never sitting in it, allowing it to drive you.
And they look a lot better this year than they did last year. They were really having to fight those cars last year, especially the Toyota drivers. The car looks a lot calmer this year. There's a bit more downforce there available as well. Yeah, particularly Sebring last year, and never forget how much of a workout it was for the drivers seesawing away at the wheel. There's Fred Makawiki on the right-hand side.
Slightly long faces here.
Yeah.
Both Penske Porsches are in the garage at the moment. Yeah, Dane Cameron not looking. They're not looking quite as relaxed as they might. And you know, there was this little thread in Spa when Jota debuted their 963. And there was all the Penske guys are going, how come they're doing that? They've had this car a week. We've had ours all season. And how are they doing that?
Well, look at Le Mans as well. When Yifeye was at the wheel, he was leading the race. He was pulling away.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, he probably overdid it in the Porsche curves and he went off and crashed. But until that crash, they were absolutely flying. They were the fastest car out there. And I didn't see that kind of speed, even from the works team.
No, I think that's very true. I mean, Le Mans was interesting, wasn't it? We had such a big field in the top class, and almost every single car had a chance to lead.
I saw some dust. Yeah, I saw some dust earlier on in that corner. So this is the culprit.
That's
So
the 33 car.
Who is in the Corvette?
It's Nicky Katzberg.
Oh, is it, Nicky?
So Nicky has had one heck of a year so far, hasn't he? Asia Le Mans Series champion, by the way, with BMW at the start of the season. Last weekend, completed a trio of class wins and indeed overall wins in 3 different cars. With Corvette, of course, at the Le Mans 24 Hours.
Yeah, he's really gelled with this car this year. I mean, popped that corner just then. But maybe he's just trying to fuel save a bit on the last lap if they need it again this year. Yeah, just shortcut the track on that last lap.
Shouldn't forget, by the way, carrying some substantial success ballast. I think it's 35 kilos in that car for this weekend.
Yeah, so last weekend was his 3rd 24-hour victory of the season.
So to complete the trio, by the way, was the win at Spa 24. Let's listen in though before we get into the 3rd one with Tota and Seb Buemi.
Okay, Seb, we see you're accumulating a little bit more illegal, PPU illegal out of turn 10 based on throttle actuation. So if try and be a bit smoother there to save PPU illegal.
That's a different message to what we were told in the past at Toyota. I've got no idea what that could have been, but it's something on throttle that he's doing.
Yep.
Maybe activating traction control too much, maybe using a bit too much power and spinning the wheels rather than propelling the car forwards, who knows. But yeah, interesting message nevertheless.
Indeed. The 3rd one, by the way, of course, for Nicky Katzberg, the Nürburgring 24 Hours, the Ferrari.
Yes.
The first 24-hour race win for the new 296 GT3.
So he's won 3 24-hour races this year.
In 3 different cars.
Yeah.
Nürburgring, Spa and Le Mans.
As Louise tells me in the last 6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah.
6 weeks, wow.
Yeah. So he's kind of short on sleep. Short on sleep and long on results.
Yeah, rather him than me.
Plus, by the way, a championship win that earned his team an entry for the Le Mans 24 Hours.
Yeah.
No excuses not to wrap up the championship this weekend then.
And by the way, that was in a 4th different car.
Yeah, that was in a BMW. So here is the single Cadillac. We were spoilt with 3 caddies thundering their way with their V8 rumble around Le Mans just a month ago, 3 weeks ago. I mean, it's not even a month, is it? And we're back down to the regular season 1, so the blue nose on this number 2 caddy.
Yeah, I like this car. I like this team. They had great spirit. Had great spirit all season. They've been professional. The car's been pretty reliable for a new car, must say. And yeah, Le Mans was brilliant. You know, they really got stuck in with their 3 cars. And back down to just the number 2 caddy here for Monza. But no, I think I've been really impressed with their approach this season.
Now, for some reason, they're only 23rd fastest. There is only one LMP2 car that has been slower so far than the Cadillac. Now, they're inheriting, or they are occupying the position that was run by the Floyd Van Wall team yesterday, but the Floyd Van Wall car is now 9th fastest.
JP Delhara has bought that car, and another replacement driver for the number 4.
Two de Oliveira's in the race.
That's not going to be confusing at all, is it? With,
not as far as I'm aware, even remotely related.
Yeah, a couple of changes in the GTM ranks. It is going to be aboard the 56 car, which, by the way, is not its Rexy livery or its earlier WC livery. They're all red livery. And it will be Matteo Caroli with Efren Castro, the first ever competitor in the FIA World Endurance Championship from the Dominican Republic.
I think in any FIA World Championship from the Dominican Republic, yeah, normally races in the US.
Yep, in single make Porsche racing, and with no little success.
Yeah,
there
multiple
either.
champion. So yeah, he could be a very interesting addition to that. And so we got 45-year-old driver from the Dominican Republic and an 18-year-old Portuguese teammate. So a real change to that lineup.
The big wing, there's no grip on the rear. The rear tires are completely destroyed.
Copy.
Yeah, it makes sense why we see the car sliding around so much. So, yeah, Seb saying there, what did he say? Big wing. The big wing. Maybe he's asking for the bigger wing, so it's changed the balance of the car, put a bit more rear downforce into it.
But they can only adjust the front.
Well, can they put
no,
a
they
tab
adjust
on
the rear. The Toyota adjusts the rear.
Oh, it's a Porsche on the front.
Yeah, they've got the rear adjustable wing, right. And, which I kind of feel like, you know, it is a great balancing tool, the rear wing. It sits up there high up, and it's very influential on the balance of the car. So That's all they're allowed to do, just change the balance. They can't change the downforce,
But he
the
said
total
the
load.
big wing is not working.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, the number 7 car is the quicker of the two at the moment. That car is a second and a half slower than the fastest lap of the quickest car in the session, which is still the 93 Peugeot. Mikkel Jensen has just brought that car down.
So they do have a rear splitter there ready to go on. So they're going to change the whole assembly, I think, in this pit stop.
Well, let's get down to the 99 garage. Proton. Louise Beckett is with Harry Tinknell. Presumably she's standing on the box.
Well, here in Monza, it's hello to Proton competition number 99. Harry Tinknell, finally, we've been hearing about it so much, you're here in the hypercar class.
Yeah, finally, I'm so happy to be back in the top class of WEC and in the prototype. Yeah, it's going really well. I mean, we only got the car last week. The car got shook down on Wednesday, arrived at Proton's factory on Friday. It's absolutely amazing effort from everyone involved just to have the car here and running. And to have such a strong day yesterday was fantastic. You know, we had very little reliability issues and we ended the day in the top 6. So that was really encouraging for us and hoping for a strong weekend. But we have to remember this is a learning weekend for us. We don't even have all the spares and all the setup stuff that we would normally have. It's just a very skeleton crew and amount of parts, so we're just making the most of it.
Well, that's it. These sessions are so important to you guys in particular.
Absolutely, yeah. We're just trying to do every single lap. Our aim this weekend is to finish the race and do as many laps as possible. I'm treating it a bit like how I treated my first year in F3 in Macau. You just have to do every single lap and learn the track, learn the car. And for us, it's, you know, there's so many new software systems, setups and stuff we can do within, actually on the steering wheel within the car, as well. You know, but it's still a new car with a steering wheel and 4 wheels. You have to go and hustle it and drive it and feel the nuances of the braking and the cornering. And so it's a lot. There's a lot to learn, but we're savouring every moment, and we're hoping, you know, we'll learn these first couple of races, and hopefully the last 2 or 3 races we can fight.
Right, thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
Well, a bit of history in the FIWC with Harry Tinknell this weekend, of a very unusual sort, because with his debut in hypercar, that means that Harry now completes the set of having raced at least once in every class in WC history.
51 Ferrari just avoiding the gravel traps at the Roger, the Corvette less so, and that's a track limits infringement as well. So also joining the list of multi-class drivers, Jeroen Blekemolen and Bruno Senna, both raced in LMP1, LMP2, GTE Pro and GTE Am. But Kevin Estre has raced in Hypercar,
yes,
LMP2, GTE Pro and GTE Am.
But not LMP1.
But Tinkerbell becomes the first to have raced in every category that has existed in the now 13-year history of the FIA World Endurance Championship.
And by the way, he's won in most of them.
Yes.
You know, LMP2, he's got an LMP2 win at Le Mans with Jota. GTE Pro, and a Le Mans win with the Aston Martin crew, as well as, of course, competing in the full season for Ford. We had in the last couple of seasons in GTM Proton competition Porsches. LMP1 with the ill-starred Nissan effort, but he was there. And now Hypercar with Proton, and you know what dramas lie ahead for all of this. It's great to see. There's a question here for Ant. The opportunities this is offering for professional drivers at this level in hypercars, this class expands.
You've always had too many drivers for seats that are available, and it's quickly starting to turn, almost to the point where there are becoming more seats than professional drivers that can fill them, that are worthy of driving for such manufacturers at races like Le Mans. Well, this is unprecedented, really.
Part of the problem is that World Endurance is not alone in this. There is a similar explosion of new machinery hitting the top class in the IMSA WeatherTech series as well, and there are clashes. We've got a couple of substitutes in Geert van der Garde and Ben Hanley rejoin United this weekend because 2 of their drivers are committed to IMSA, who are racing at Mosport, Canada Tire Motorsport Park in Canada. So there are those clashes. I mean, a lot of Harry's racing, actually, and a lot of his success, although Graham's just documented a lot here, yeah, the big wing's still not working.
Well, no, that's car 7 this time, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's the same problem, isn't it?
No,
Very loose rear end under braking.
Well, this is what put them out of contention finally at Le Mans, wasn't it? The rear locking up.
Yeah.
for, that was Rio Hirakawa at the wheel of the car number 8 in Le Mans, of course. But yeah, catching out number 7, who's at the wheel at the moment in car? Jose Maria Lopez, you know, very experienced driver and doesn't mind a car that moves around a little bit on the rear. And yeah, a big old rear lock-in moment there.
Despite Harry's success in World Endurance and at Le Mans, actually a lot of his success has come in the IMSA series as well.
Where he's driven DPI, another top class.
Champion, and race winner for Mazda, so with the Yost team, and so he's got phenomenal experience on both sides of the Atlantic, and this is a real problem. I mean, you know, Felipe Albuquerque's in the same situation with United here, and with a DPI program, with an IMSA program. He can't make the two butt together, you know.
That doesn't sound good.
Is that a broken exhaust or a broken cylinder?
Or a failed spark plug or something. Yeah, that we have to get Louise ready down in the pit lane, because yeah, the number 31 WRT definitely sounds a bit sick to me.
On its outlap.
Yeah, that's coming out of the pit lane. I wonder if something's not quite released properly in the electronics when he's released a speed limiter. He's up to speed, obviously, but...
No, I've heard them sound like that before when there's a failed spark plug.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember Roberto Gonzalez coming around at Spa once, me and Antonio, Felix da Costa standing on the pit wall. We heard Roberto come past, and it sounded like that on the outlap before the race.
Yeah. Oh.
So he came back into the pits, and it's funny how I said to Antonio at the time, I reckon that it could be a spark plug. And he said, he joked, he said, "Oh, go down there and tell the engine engineers that that's what you think it is." That turned out it was in fact the spark plug that failed.
Hey, even a stock clock is right twice a day.
Oh, that was super close.
Actually, it's interesting because this is quite a short, tight pit lane. I noticed a couple of teams, the GR Racing team were doing, rehearsing when the car has to come in around the nose of somebody coming in at like more than a 45-degree angle. So they were rehearsing a pit stop with that scenario. The car parked, you know, almost sideways on. Dollies under it, back in, gadung, 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 the whole thing.
A nose-in pit stop, as it's called. Yeah.
And nose changes for both Ferraris in that pit stop, or these pit stops.
This is the quickest way of tuning a car, isn't it? Rather than sort of fiddle with the nose adjustment or whatever when it's on the car, you will just preset it in the garage and then put it on, try this. Oh, yeah, no, that really works. Okay, we're going to try it on both cars. It might be that they've gone from setup A on car 51 and setup B on 50 and swapped it to get both teams' view of what both noses are like.
In the park,
car. Oh, big wiggle there.
He's just losing the rear under turning. That was correct, Martin, in the past, in the LMP1, where you could tune both front and rear independently aerodynamically. But now, of course, you're locked into just one area of the car that you're allowed to tune, front or rear. You have to choose. You decide. There's the Jota boys talking it out down in the garage. Will Stevens, Felix da Costa, and Yiffy Ye.
Yiffy Ye obviously needs to grow a beard.
Yeah, it's
join the club. But sorry, just going back to that. So, I think that was more of a balance, more of a mechanical setup at the front end of the Ferraris rather than. So what they often do as well, though, is just to double check that two different splitters perform the same. Yeah. Because it's very hard to manufacture such a huge piece of bodywork that does such an important job aerodynamically, to manufacture two parts of bodywork that can perform exactly the same.
20 minutes remaining. Nobody's in the Jota Porsche.
That's it. Yes, there doesn't seem to be terribly much drama there. I think they've got this all under control. Quick additional point here. We talked about how many people were here yesterday. There's certainly the traffic this morning indicates there's a lot of people here today. We're expecting a huge crowd tomorrow. If you can't get trackside for the FI World Endurance Championship and get some of that kind of background buzz about this, of course, watch the race live with us. You'd be more than welcome across the broadcast channels and across the WC app. But also take a look back at Le Mans and the background story on the WC Full Access episode from Le Mans. Excellent stuff from the crew there. And the next one from this race will be live on YouTube on July the 19th. Big step forward, I think, for that programme this year.
Yeah, and the inside story of some of the threads that run through Le Mans is just riveting. As riveting as the on-track action was, seeing the response in the garages and among the team members. And actually, you know, sort of wives and families and all the other parts of the bigger picture, we just go racing car, racing car, racing car. There's so much more to it than that.
There is so much more to it than that. And great stuff, by the way. We've got 31 car. That's the car with the almost certainly, as Ant Davidson described, and he is a genius at these things. It's often been said.
Maybe I'm not right this time, but it definitely said, yeah. So the rear end's definitely coming off.
Yeah, spark plug or ignition pack or whatever. Yeah, it had that real nasty misfire, didn't it? Driver's not getting out, so.
That's Sean Galea,
it was Sean in 31, yeah.
At Julien Canal at Alpine Elf Competition, and you quite rightly said they'll be back next year, fighting hard this year in LMP2, but back next year with the brand new Alpine hypercar.
And in fact, we haven't seen that yet. We've seen sort of slight little light reveals of the nose of the car.
No, we saw it at Le Mans. It was revealed at Le Mans.
Oh, I didn't see it.
No, it was revealed at Le Mans. You were too busy.
I was too busy.
You were too busy.
But fans here this weekend, today and tomorrow, will see another new hypercar on the ground running. So the Zotta Fraschini is here this weekend, looks beautiful, will be running this afternoon and will be running tomorrow morning as well before the race gets underway. So it's continuing to test. Vector Sport are hoping very soon to get their hands on it and really start trying to break stuff. Which is what you do with a new car, and trying to learn stuff.
Which is exactly what Peugeot found in the early days of their program. This is the Vector Sport B2 car, soon to be joined by that hypercar. An extensive test program, confirmation from Zotta Fraschini and from Vector Sport that we will not see that car race this year. They are waiting with bated breath to see what the decision of the selection committee will be for the WC in 2024.
Their thinking at the moment is they're going to try and get it homologated by the end of October, and that means that they can then go to the post-Bahrain rookie test, and there is another test in the Middle East about 10 days after that, which is going to be a multiple manufacturer test. And so they're going to come here with all the data from this weekend, and then they'll be able to know how close they are. But it's getting to the crossing T's and dotting I's and giving everything to the FIA. Is that the Corvette that's been rally crossing again?
Nicolas Veroni at the wheel this time, so he's swapped from Katzberg, and he's saying anything you can do, I can do as well. Seeing as you've put so much gravel into the underside of the car, running wide there in turn 1. Not an easy session for them, this FP3. And the car hasn't looked as balanced and as well sorted. Yeah, here's that moment.
He's way off there, isn't he?
Well spotted, Graham. Oh. Mechanics don't like that.
No. Honestly, a one-eyed man could have spotted that from centre of Milan, the cloud of dust there.
But I didn't expect it to be such a moment. Look, just
big
grabbed.
wiggle there.
This is, you know what though? This is what I like about the final corner, the way, you know, it's self-policing with the track limits. You have to respect the fact that the gravel's there. So it hasn't done any harm, but it's definitely a massive deterrent from inside the car. So here's a moment here at the second chicane for the Iron Dames car, who's at the wheel
Michel
there.
Gatting.
Michel Gatting, yeah.
And they had a tough weekend as well in Spa. In fact, the whole Iron Links, they had 3 Lamborghinis. Only one of them was still running by Sunday morning. It was a really tough race.
Great, by the way, yesterday to see when we had the public here in droves and kids around from school trips, and a full, by the look of it, coach load of young ladies being entertained by the Iron Dames, and some very happy kids left this track, all of them, wearing that iconic bright pink hat. It's a big weekend here at Monza, not just for the ladies we've got in our own competition, but also on the bill here. It's
FIA's Formula 1 Academy, which is an all-female racing championship using current F3 cars. In fact, a couple of the names fairly well related to the World Endurance Championship. Former WC driver Khaled Al-Khabaisi's daughters are both racing in that. So that's a sort of
race winner, Khaled.
Post karting, late teens kind of championship. Nicola Veroni, lap 20 deleted for track limits. I tell you what, they might need to be jet washing the inside of the car seat as well, to be honest. That was a full-on Code Brown moment. Well, here is, I think we can probably guess that it was the right-hand block of cylinders or bank of cylinders that had the igniter troubles.
Almost certainly that was I'm guessing, I'm no expert, probably a spark plug.
Don't joke. We'll find out. I mean, Louise, I'm sure we'll find out the truth.
Don't go with extra.
And all your mocking will be.
I'm not mocking. I think this is exactly why we love having you in the booth.
Don't go with ex-British Grand Prix racer Anne Davidson, who only got 6 out of 12 on the BBC's Grand Prix Racers quiz, featuring only British drivers.
That had nothing to do with spark plugs.
No, just as well.
The really poor error there from Ant was not reading the rules before he tried to put the others in.
Of course, I'm a driver. I find out the rules as I go.
Yeah. You've got a race director for that and a team boss.
Yeah.
Michelin Man just checking the tyres there as Neil Jarni steps out of the 99 Proton Porsche.
By the way, it's under 15 minutes to go in this 60-minute session. Joe to have led this session in LMP2 from the very start. Vector Sport going well.
Yeah, good session for them.
Quickest. And then Alpine, a very different top 3 for that. Project 1AO in the hands of Matteo Caroli. Pole setter last weekend at the Spa 24 Hours, ahead of the Dempsey Proton Racing and GR Racing Porsches. 1, 2, 3 for Porsche.
Yeah. Interesting, riding on board here with Dane Cameron, the number 5 Porsche. And yeah, going through the Ascari chicane, probably went in a little bit deep, didn't use enough of the curb. That was kind of the old line before they got rid of that, the sausage curb on the inside. That was it really affected the car and how early you could turn in. As Sean Gallel checks the camera, saying, "Hey, I want to be out there. Come on, what's going on with my car?"
Non mi rompi pali.
Well, don't break it next time, Sean. Be easy on the equipment. Look, so the number 50 Ferrari is catching now the number 5 Porsche we're just riding on board with.
Louise Beckett, what do you know?
For the WRT 31 with Sean Gallel in the car right now, all the team is saying is it's down on power. That's the only information I can give you.
Okay, well, tell them Ant suggests it's a spark plug.
Just say you know it's a spark plug. You know it's a spark plug. I just want it confirmed.
I did actually say that, I have to say, but still the official line is it's down on power.
Yeah, we could hear how down on power it was. Thank you, Lou.
So Jody can't go straight on. So, Ant, you're the expert. If it was a fell spark plug, would the car be down on power?
You know what? I think it might be. Yes.
This is
well, that's like when we were at Le Mans and asking Toyota what tyres they've got on, and they say Michelin. Okay, great. I'm removing myself from this WhatsApp group. You are worse than useless.
Give Ben Keating a proper seat, somebody down there at Corvette.
There is the new colours, by the way, for the quickest car in GTM this weekend.
Hey-oh, let's go.
Indeed. Rexy will return, we are told, the dinosaur livery. Hugely popular. That livery racing in the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park this weekend. In IMSA competition.
Yeah, that was a big fan favourite, especially when the car came through scrutineering in the middle of town the weekend before Le Mans, or the week before Le Mans. It was a big fan favourite. There's not a kid of any age who doesn't like a car that looks like a dinosaur.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Exactly right.
So if Peugeot 93, that's the 94 has just gone past on screen there. If 93 can end the session on top with just 11 minutes to go, is that the first session this season that we've had a Peugeot top of the timesheets?
I suspect it's the first session we've ever had a Peugeot top of the timesheets.
Yeah, since the old days when Ant was driving for Peugeot.
It was a lot quicker when
that's a long time. Louise Beckett in the pit lane.
There was a moment around hour 3 in Le Mans for Peugeot.
I was thinking practice and qualifying. You're completely right that they led, but leading a session at the end of a session, I don't think we've seen that.
Maybe I didn't make myself clear enough. Yeah, I meant by when they finish the session, they end on top. I don't think we've seen that yet.
No, I don't think we have.
By ear, Ant, while we've still got Louise on the phone, which cylinder do you think?
Well, we know it's the right hand, and it's the first one. I don't know which cylinder it would be, but it's the most forward spark on the right-hand side.
Tell them check that first.
They won't.
Might save them some time. Ant says.
Oh no, sorry. I could just hear it as it came past. Yeah, I could hear it's that one.
Laura Wontrop-Clouds, the head of GM Racing, chatting with their Michelin representative. No, I think it was definitely Laura. There's more of this afternoon in qualifying at quite a lot more of it tomorrow in the race. We appear to have slipped into, we're very, very tired.
It's 4:30 in the morning.
It's 4:30 at Le Mans mode.
Let's not make that mistake again, Martin.
No, indeed, absolutely. Cake for everyone. Mikkel Jensen, fastest, or the number 93 Peugeot is fastest into the final 10 minutes of the final free practice session. Do you know what? If Peugeot could pull something really huge out of the bag here, that would be absolutely enormous for them. They made a debut here with their 9X8 hypercar last year. It was their first race. I think they may feel that maybe they came to the party a little early and they might have been better finalising the car, but they did what they did. And of course, the other car you saw in that shot, Glickenhaus, they've been here in hypercar from the beginning as well with that car. And this is their third season. Whether it's the final season for Glickenhaus or not, I don't know. Jim's got an awful lot of other fish to fry, and you know, all of his cars have finished Le Mans. He's been on the podium. He's ticked the boxes that were in his wildest dreams. Let's hear from Sean Gillale.
Go. Try engine nut 3 again. Try engine nut 3. Engine nut 3.
No, it's definitely a spark plug, mate.
I've been corrected, and I'm happy to be corrected, that Bahrain last year, FP1 and FP2, Peugeot led that session. So thanks to Dan Lloyd, the young journalistic gun in the media centre, who's corrected us on that one.
Who's got a laptop and a result sheet? I have a laptop.
And a memory, in
I have
fairness.
a laptop and I have the result sheet open from last year, but my laptop, unfortunately, is on a bench outside the hotel.
Yeah, that was a bad move.
Finished on top or led?
Finished on top.
Finished on top.
João Paulo de Oliveira, that is hot work in a hypercar.
Very experienced driver. He's raced in Super GT in Japan. Yeah,
Raced and won.
Single-seater driver from the past as well. So yeah, very, very experienced. Great to have him involved with this program that we're seeing on the screen now. The Floyd Vanborg car
keeps our Portuguese count up as well. Yeah. Albuquerque out, João Paulo in. So JP debriefing, but I mean, we're in an air-conditioned booth. Sorry, Lou, but it is. The track temperature will be up to 50 by now, and the air temperature over 30. So it is
warm.
Really hard work.
That car, by the way, at the moment, with 7.5 minutes to go, 12th quickest in the overall order, and 13-car hypercar order, and just a thousandth under 2 seconds off the quick time from the Peugeot.
Well, listen, Tristan Vautier in that car is just being passed by the car that is that number 7 going by him? He is number 8. He is just behind Ryo Hirakawa by 42 thousandths of a second. Yep. Normally, that would be really, really, really good. Unfortunately for them, the car, the number 8 Toyota, is down in 11th place, so it's not quite as promising as maybe it might otherwise have seemed.
What does that look like to you?
That looks like a cam cover, or a not a cam cover, but
that's 31.
Yeah,
again.
So it's still the right-hand banker cylinders they're looking at. The computer will say error code like your car does. It'll tell you what's wrong, and then you've got to believe it, and then you change that bit, and it goes, no, that's not right, it's still wrong, and then you go, well, you just changed it, mate, what's going on? Where did he lose the lens, the light cover? Has he twonked something styrofoamy?
There.
Not there, but that was only the first zig and zag, but he definitely had lost the lens cover. Yeah,
that's not going to help the aerodynamic efficiency of the 34 car. That car, by the way, the Le Mans winning car, currently 8th in our 11-car LMP2 battle. And remember, that's another class that has got just 3 races to run in this current iteration in the FIWC. Confirmed at Le Mans that aside from the Le Mans 24 Hours, LMP2 will leave the FI World Endurance Championship next year. Why? Because we've got another big growth to come in hypercar. Second quickest for the 50.
This is interesting. I wonder if that's an outlet for the number 50 Ferrari there, because oh well, weaving maybe a second lap or something.
First flying lap, probably.
Really weaving around there, and actually, you know, overtook the Prema car on the way into the Ascari chicane. I think it was a little bit unnecessary because he was actually holding him up by the time he got to the apex at 8 and 9. on those colder tyres. It's obviously faster in a straight line, but he wanted that free track. For this lap, he started now with just 5 minutes remaining in the session.
So this is a quali sim for him, isn't it?
Must be, yeah. So it's not going to happen on lap 1. We can see that quite clearly from even the medium set of tyres on the Michelins there for the hypercar category. They're not warm enough by the first lap. But that's nothing new really for this circuit anyway, even if you had tyre warmers, because you don't have many high-speed corners. There's lots of braking zones and tight corners that really energise the bulk temperature of your tyre. So it does naturally take a few laps around this circuit anyway.
And the other thing there is, we've seen in the past, is that you don't just get one hot lap. You can get 2 and conceivably 3 out of the tyre because it's relatively low in energy.
Well, that was a risky one as well from Loic de Velde on the inside.
Committed, wasn't he? And you know, that's what you need to be. The difference between the drivers, a lot of the difference between the drivers is using traffic and making those moves.
So here we go. This was him down the inside, rear end squirming around. The Porsche goes to turn in, and that was way tighter actually than we first thought from riding on board. And the GT cars at number 60 had to go straight on. Yes. Probably was a little bit unsighted there and didn't quite see that lower profile hypercar down the inside. And those GT cars are quick. We saw it yesterday. Yes. Sitting down at turn 1, they are quick under the braking zone. They can carry the same speed as a hypercar into tight corners like that.
We also saw as well, and particularly with the number 56 car with Mattia Caroli at the wheel, making inroads into prototypes on cold tyres.
Yeah.
He was motoring. The tyres seem to get up to temperature far quicker on the GTMs than they do on the hypercars, and the LMP2s don't have the same issues straight out to the pits either. So it does make for, again, a different dynamic. We saw it earlier in the season, a different dynamic when these cars come through and change tyres.
There will be white flags shown into Curva Grande when a car is coming out of the pits. Because a lot of the time, particularly in the race, that will be on cold tyres, and a white flag signifies a slow-moving vehicle. Traditionally, it'll be because there's a rescue vehicle or whatever in front of you, but in this instance, it'll be to warn drivers coming in here hot that there may be somebody really mimsing in the chicane because they've got no tyre temp.
Marta Ferrari, the AF from AF Corsa, who, what a stunning job they did at Le Mans. With this Ferrari effort.
So looking a lot more on it now is Miguel Molina. A bit more confidence in the car, a bit more confidence in the tyres, and here he comes into the same Ascari chicane with a lot more speed than he could carry last lap around. So yeah, that, well, what's he been out there? 2 laps now, 2 flying laps, and the tyres look to be pretty much there.
Going by the car that won last year in GTM, Christian Reed, who remains in the car, won with Seb Prio and Harry Tinknell, neither of whom are in with him this season. But it was the 77 car that won. That's their last win, I think. They haven't had a top step of the podium finish since then.
They've not had a great season so far, the 77.
Second fastest at the moment, Julian Andlauer. No questioning his pace in a Porsche, former Porsche junior factory driver.
Still, by the way, 1, 2, 3.
Too deep, sorry, Graham. Too deep there was Molina into the first chicane and had to cut through that second corner.
Yeah, still 1, 2, 3 in GTM for Porsche here, but yeah, you're right. Let's watch this from the outside the car.
So it's the left front,
wasn't it?
Yeah, the left front actually locked up there. You'd think it'd be the slightly unloaded tyre on the right-hand side before turning in, but yeah, front left lock up. Just pushing the braking limits a bit too much on these tyres that's clearly still on the rise up in temperature. He was a half second faster that last lap around than he was the lap before. And here is that moment where he overtook the Prema number 9, and then was the Prema car, he's all over him through turn 9 and 10. So yeah, probably a bit, so the 63, probably a bit frustrated there, thinking, why did you overtake me here? Because now you're in my way.
Yeah, the middle and low speed sort of minimas of all 3 classes are about the same, aren't they? Because, of course, you don't have any downforce there, and that's what allows the hypercars and the LMP2 cars to corner quicker in the quick stuff than the GTEs, and so it's down then to weight and actual tyre contact patch, and there's not much difference between them.
38 seconds to go on the clock, and counting down. Peugeot still lead this session, and Ferrari, I guess, would like to lead the session for the headline this morning. Doesn't look as if that's going to happen at this stage.
Don't think they'll be worried too much about that if they can lead the session this afternoon.
No, indeed.
Yeah, it's a bigger session coming up later on, and you know, they're working through their programs right now. And the most important thing is making sure you find a good race balance.
It is, though, a topsy-turvy leading order here as we come down now in the last few seconds before the checkered flag is shown, and it will be right now. Peugeot, Ferrari, Cadillac, Hertz Team Jota, Proton competition, and then the first Toyota, and then the first Penske Porsche before we go into Glickenhaus. The second Toyota, the Van Wall, and the final car in the order is the second Penske Porsche.
Well, I hope for Toyota's sake they've got an answer come qualifying, because it's very rare to see them that low down on the timing sheets. And I know we say, well, you know, practice doesn't really matter, it's not about the lap times, but still, you get a bit of a rough idea as to the pace of the car's performance, and we've never seen them that low down.
No.
Are they making a point? Or are they just struggling? Well, we'll find out in about 3 hours' time, because qualifying starts at 14:40 local time. We'll be on air from 14:30 local time, 12:30 GMT, 13:30 if you're watching in the UK, Ireland, Portugal, the Azores, the Canaries, South Africa, whatever. So, yeah, 14:30 local time, 12:30 Greenwich Mean Time, wherever you are. Do try and join us if you can. It should be highly entertaining. And Ferrari on home turf. Can they claim pole position? Can they claim their first non-Le Mans WEC victory? That would be a big feather in their cap. They are coming here absolutely determined to try and claim a win.
No changes in the overall order. There was a quicker lap time right at the end there from Alessio Picariello, which makes it a Porsche 1, 2, 3, 4 in the session in GTE Am. The 60 car coming through in fourth. Qualifying this year, gentlemen, has taken a step up in drama every single time we've been out there, and in all classes. And there's something about the rhythm of this race meeting that leads me to believe this is going to be just a bit more spectacular still.
Yeah.
Can Peugeot later on today claim their first pole position since returning to top flight sports cars? That will be a big story. But for me, another huge story of this session, which could carry through into qualifying, is where are Toyota?
Yeah. Well, Lloyd Duval there on the right was saying that their performance, their ability to run more consistently, more competitively against their rivals at Le Mans really gave the team a boost. And he was saying, you know, a podium, a win would just be a reward for these guys who have been slogging their guts out for 18 months to design, test, develop and race this car so far without a big trophy to take home. So this would be a great place for Ferrari to claim their first World Endurance win, but it would be a great place for Peugeot too as well to round out their first season.
I don't think the confidence level in terms of reliability is quite yet there from members of the team. It certainly wasn't there before the start of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And look how they performed, and look at the reliability of their car. I think they've slowly got to come out of that rut they were in terms of the psychology and the lack of confidence in the reliability. This time here last year, it was, you know, it was pretty terrible.
It was very trying indeed.
Yeah, very trying.
It was a test mule that had never raced with a test team that had never raced.
But they're there now in terms of reliability. I think they're there amongst you know, the best out there. So topping this timesheet.
First and third, and only one Ferrari squeezing between them. But look at that, a quarter of a second, not even that, less than a tenth covering the top four. Quarter of a second back, you've got the Cadillac, you've got the Jota Porsche right in there as well, swinging, and Proton behind them. So the big names, Toyota Gazoo Racing and Porsche Penske Motorsport, struggling in free practice 3 in a way that they didn't yesterday. Is the higher track temperature making a difference to the setup on their cars? I mean, Peugeot looked like a different car at Le Mans. If they can come here and produce a big result, that will really... you just need that one little spark that ignites the confidence in the team. And part of that came from Le Mans. They know they've got a car that is getting closer and closer. Every time they roll it out, they're still learning, they're still improving. And this trio of drivers, the sister car as well, they've got they have got a great opportunity here. René Arnoux, will he bring a bit of luck to Ferrari? Well, we will find out in qualifying. Don't forget, the 3 classes qualify separately here. We will be bringing you all the action from 14:30 Central European Time, 12:30 Greenwich Mean Time, on the FIA WC app and via your other broadcast partners. Join us then, please. Until then, from Louise Beckett in an ever-increasingly scorchio pit lane, from Graham Goodwin and Anne Davidson, Martin Haven, on behalf of the whole World Endurance TV crew, saying thank you for joining us. We will see you this afternoon for qualifying. It will be scorchio. Well, let's get down to the pit lane and hear from the Peugeot team. Louise Beckett will have all the word.
Jean-Eric Verne, the 93 Peugeot, topping the times from that session, but it looks like there's a lot of work going on the car.
Yeah, when Mika went in the car, we had a problem with the gearbox, and we have to change it. So the team is doing his maximum so that we can be ready for qualifying.
And talking through that session, you happy with that timing?
Well, obviously there were a lot of things that we wanted to understand from the long run, so that we couldn't really do it. Then in terms of qualifying preparation, I think it went well. Just that the other guys are able to find a lot of time from FP3 to quali, but nevertheless, it feels good for the team to be finally up there. I think if in qualifying we can, be behind the 2 Toyotas and Ferraris, but in front of the Porsche and the Cadillac, I think it would be a fantastic result. So yeah, we're going to push for that, and as long as we keep improving race after race, we're going in the right direction. So I'm happy with the job that we've done so far this weekend, and I hope that we can continue on like this.
Well, you're talking about improvements. I mean, go back 12 months. This was your first WEC with the cars.
Yeah, no, it was, and it's fair to say that we've been, more struggling than anything, trying to catch up. But hard work always pay off, and we still have a lot of, we still have a mountain to climb, but we are going all together as a team. We're going in the right direction, and that's all that matters.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yeah, interesting to hear from there. Clearly, a challenge there for the 93. Before qualifying.
Just as we were talking about reliability and getting better. Yeah.
But the spirit is different. And the other thing I'd say, I spend a lot of my time at these race meetings in the media room, and there's been a fair amount of nonsense spouted about the risk to this programme. This programme is not at risk. This is, they are getting behind this. They've had their challenges. They're looking for ways in which they can take the steps forward this year. They're looking for what they might do next year. There are all sorts of options available to them. It's a fight. It's a fight. It's a fight against their own programme and the limitations that this formula places, but it's a fight against the fact that teams and organisations like Ferrari are coming in. They've had early success. You've got 2 ways of dealing with that, haven't you? One is to sit down and curl up and kind of, hope it all goes away, or the other one is come out punching.
Yep.
And it looks to me like Porsche have taken the second option.
Yeah, definitely. And this Penske Porsche Motorsport team will have to do the same as well. Kevin Escher there, Andre Lotterer looking rather accusatorily at the number 6 car. They have not had a great free practice session, but that's history. It's like everything in motor racing. Okay, what's done is done. Now we have to move forward. And you can see Hertz Team Jota doing exactly that, rehearsing their driver changes, trying to make sure that they can maximise their package. Well, that is it then for our final free practice session. You can join us on the WC app and via our broadcast partners across the globe. 14:30 local, 12:30 Greenwich Mean Time, 13:30 if you're watching in the UK, Ireland, Portugal or Western Europe. Until then, from all of us here, thanks for joining us. We will see you for qualifying to see who comes out on top this afternoon.